I was born in Jerusalem in 1939. Now I uncovered my age. uh, yeah, I was born in 1939. At that time, the whole world was busy with the Second World War. You know that. And the situation was so bad in Jerusalem and in the whole countries, the Arabic countries. So I stayed there until 1948, when another war has erupted between the Arabic countries and Israel, and they occupied the West Bank of Jordan. So we had to move at that time. I moved with my family to Amman, the capital of Jordan, and we lived there. When my great-grandfather helped the Prophet Muhammad in the Arabic countries, they helped Muhammad in conquering the Roman army at that time, and they did good job in defending the country, Mu'tah. It was called the Battle Mu'tah. Muhammad was looking for the person who did all this miracle to dispel the people from there and conquer them and go and open the castle. So he gave him the word Uzaiz. Uzaiz means very respectful guy. You know, he gave him this name, Uzaiz. And my family came from Uzaizat, which is the plural of Uzaiz. And it's like 50 branches. One of the branches was our own branch, Khzouz. My father was living in Jordan. He was in Kerak. It's a city in the south of Jordan. And he came to Madaba. That's the city where we live. I mean, our family lived there. So it's a long story about my father. My father has his own history. And he was very respectful between our tribe. And my mother was from Amman suburbs, from Fes. And my father was born in Kerak, and he came to Madaba. And he lived with his family over there for a long time. I haven't seen him because when he died, I was like days or a month or two. Nobody knows. I was a little kid, like a baby, a little baby. Yeah. So I haven't got most of his stories or his doings at that time. So people were telling me about my dad, that he was a knight with a horse, and he was very prominent in the society, and people loved him, and he was the head of the family. It was so bad when I was a little young baby, and my mother found a hard time raising up us. We were like 7 people in the house, kids. Mm-hmm. I was days, and my oldest sister was about 20, and all young. And my mother had a bad time raising us because of the war at that time. It was the Second World War at that time. So we lived, we can say we lived poor at that time because my dad passed away, and my mother has to go back from Jerusalem, because I was born in Jerusalem. She has to go back to Jordan, I mean to the north, to Amman, and I should say to the east, to Amman, to find my family and try to get some what he has left, my father. He was rich, very rich, but the Roman Empire gave us hard time. They used to come and invade Madaba and take all the sheep, all the horses, all the animals from there and take the money, kill people, whatever. So it was so bad. The situation was so bad, and we were raised poor. You can say poor. Well, I learned that my dad was a very good man, courageous, smart. He was a knight. He was a warrior at that time because of the situation in the Middle East. So I took many things from him. I learned how to be a strong man like him. I was successful because I always thought about my dad. I want to imitate him, to be like him, to work hard, to be a good man, to be truthful, to be courageous, to be ambitious. What can I tell you more than that? My father was a big example for me, a big role model for me. This is a good question. I'm sorry. When I was young, I used to listen to the singers, to the vocalists in our back home. They were very prominent in the Arabic world and in the whole world, like Farid Al-Atrash, Muhammad Abdul Wahab, Kulthum, Abdul Halim Hafiz. I used to listen to them and repeat their songs. I used to have this kind of sense. I loved the music when I was young. I used to listen to the music like standing still or sitting still. Just I want to hear the music. It was going through my head like, what? It's like a new spirit for me to have those songs and repeat them. At that time, I told you, we were poor people. I don't have money to buy an oud. I love the oud, which is in English lute, L-U-T-E. So I was doing something funny, really. I would like to talk about it because it's so funny. I used to go out, find some wires from the electrical posts and, collect those wires and put them together in a piece of, like a can and a piece of wood. And I made something looks like an oud. And I was playing on that instrument that I have invented myself. And it was so funny. People used to look at me and say, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I have to do something. I want to sing." I used to sing on that little thing until I became like 12 years old or 13 years old. I saved some money and bought the first one. The first oud was broken. I put it together myself. It was hard for me because I was looking for glue to do that oud. It was broken, but I brought it back to shape and I started playing by myself. This is, for me, it was a discovery. Because I loved music, I have to play music. So I had the first oud when I was like 13 years old. I started writing, by the way, poetry. Also, I made the first song when I was 10 years old. People were looking at me and said, "Hey, you should study music. You should do that, this and that." But due to our, situation, it was hard for me to go on and pursue my talent in music. But I kept going to the school until I graduated. But the music's still in my blood until now. She was nice. And my mother loved her so much. Why? She used to say, after she grew up, like 14, 15 years, she says, "You have to marry this girl." I said, "Why?" She says, "Her mother is so good and so polite that my brother was so happy with her because she was so nice. She's a good lady, very self-respectful, and she has always smile on her face, and she was everything you can say good about her. She was a fine lady, very good lady." And she says, "Her daughter must be the same. If you marry her, you're gonna be happy in your future." I said, "Okay, Mom." Then I, asked her hand. She was 16 or less than 17 years old. I was 24 years old. And we got married. At the same time, my brother, Bshara, married another girl from, the family, and she was his first cousin too. We married in the same day. We went to the church together, and we came back to the party together. It was so nice. After we married, we couldn't have kids at the beginning. After like 3 years, 3.5 years, I went to the doctor and I asked him why this lady cannot have a baby. And he examined her, he's a gynecologist, and he said, she's ready, nothing wrong with her, just give her some time. After 4.5 years, she had, or no, it's about 4 years, maybe I was mistaken with the dates, 4 years, then she had Nader. I have 4 in Jordan. Nader, Nadia, she's younger than Nader about 1.5 years almost. Then Maher, your husband. And then Salam, then Suna. Suna came here.
In the United States.
Came to life here in the United States. We just celebrated the 48 years of marriage. Our anniversary was a month ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was 48 years. Well, journalism, I started it, professionally when I was in the radio station. But to go back to the school, once I used to read books, many books a day. I used to read. I'm a good reader. Okay, so one day I asked my teacher if I can deliver the speech that morning in the school. So I used many books to find something to talk about. Then I prepared a good speech in the morning. I went on the microphone. I was like 14 years old. And I delivered the speech. It was good. People like it. And my teacher talked to me. He said, Issa, you should concentrate on journalism in the future. If you go to the college or whatever, you have to go on and study journalism. I like that idea. It was in my head until I moved to radio station. I used to write some editorials in the magazines and newspaper in my back home when I was young too. I used to have an article every day, mostly every week, in the Dustur newspaper in Jordan. Yeah, but when I was in the court, I was employed by the Justice Department in 1960, and I started increasing my, output in journalism. So I was sending articles to the radio station, and I used to be an actor in the radio place. I remember once I wrote a story about Azzeddin al-Qassam. He was one of the commandos, Palestinian commandos in Jerusalem. I wrote his story and I took the role of his life. So I wrote that and I directed it. I produced it to the theater. I was like 17 years old. Then one of those producers in the radio station saw the act and he liked me. He says, okay, meet me tomorrow in the radio station. I met him over there and I became an actor. I used to participate in different types of acting in the radio station. In 1965, I moved from the Justice Department to the radio station, and I was a broadcaster. I was reading the news, commentary, and different types of programs like variety, feature, whatever, musical programs. I used to do many types of programs. Yeah, I worked in the radio station 1965. They have some raises over there to the wages I used to have. They gave me like a double wage than I used to take from the Justice Department. Plus, I was an actor in the same time. They were paying me for acting. Every episode, I used to have a Jordan dinar for it. Let's make it short, I was making like the wages of 5 people, almost 5 employees. I was so happy. I used to have a car. I used to have good furniture, good house. My kids were having clothes, the best in the market. We were happy. Well, we were very successful. But I told you about how or why did I leave my back home. And now, coming to the United States with this kind of feeling about myself, because in my opinion, I was in the highest point in my life. I used to take good money, live a good life. I have my own car. I have my own friends. They were all, I was happy. And another story. After 1967, I was reading the commentary. It was political commentary, and there was some problems in the Middle East. I was commentating. I didn't write that because it wasn't my job, but I was reading inside the studio. I finished the commentary. I opened the door. Suddenly, I saw King Hussein. King Hussein? Yes, King Hussein. And he was, hitting me on my shoulder. Good man. He was outside all the time since I started reading until I finished. I was so surprised. What kind of man was that king? He was so polite, and so nice, and so good man. I missed him, to tell you the truth. I'm still remembering him. He was, I don't know, he's like my father or my older brother. Mm-hmm. He was so nice, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and I walked him to the door. And he said, "Okay, guys, I'm leaving. Thank you. You did a good job." I was so surprised. A king does that to me? I'm nothing to it. In comparison to the king. But he was so patient that made him stand behind the door until I finished the commentary. Oh, it's a funny story to tell you. Don't blame me. I'm telling the truth. I swear. I was like 12 years old. At that time, I got in fight with some of the friends in the school. Yeah. I don't want to say friends, but he beat me up. I said, how can I defend myself? I have to do something. I was a little weak, skinny. Then I started heavy weightlifting for a while. Then I said, no, I have to do something better than that. I became a boxer. I found somebody who trained me, and I was very active in this kind of field, but not for the professionals, for the amateurs. I used to play as an amateur in the middleweight. So I had three championships in Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria. Now you reminded me. I have to go back, you know. I was like 16 years old. And there was a fight in Jordanian city called Irbid or Al-Husn. And my opponent was 26 years old. I was 16 at that time. And when he saw me, we were all together riding a bus to go from Amman to Al-Husn. And he was looking at me like this and telling his, you know, his friends, "Oh, is that the one who's gonna box me? Fight me?" He said, "Yes." Oh man, that's a little boy wants to, you know, to fight me. I'm gonna beat his butt. I was mad at him. I said, "Okay, we'll meet at the ring." At the ring, I gave him a hard time. I knocked him down 3 times. And at that time, a turmoil started between the people. How come this boy, 16 years old, hit a man like that, you know, 26 or 27 years old? And his friends were trying to hit me with a knife. Then I was saved by the police. They lifted me and took me to a room in the class, one of the classes. It was a school. And they put me inside that class and locked the door. And at the night, we met again in the club, who invited us. And he was looking at me like this. He said, "Sorry, Issa, I was talking about you, and I didn't know that you were, strong enough to hit me." I said, "Well, I'm sorry too, but it happened, just happened." It was funny. And we became friends again. Yeah. I think the most critical moments I have spent in Radio Amman or Radio Jordan, it was in 1967 war. I stayed 3 days, 3 consecutive days behind the microphone without sleep, talking to the army, and just try to make them feel happy that somebody is talking to them. I'm not gonna win the war at that time. I wasn't planning it because I can't, but we were talking to the army, reading the news every half an hour. I stayed 3 days behind the microphone. When I finished, I went home. Most of the people in our area, in our community, thought that I was dead because somehow the wires of the radio station was hit by a rocket or something, and the radio station stopped transmitting. They thought I was killed, and that the radio station was destroyed and I was killed. When I came home, there were like lions waiting for me to see me. "Oh, he's still alive. Oh, he's still alive. He didn't die." That was a very critical moment in my life. When the war erupted between Israel and Jordan, I was in the radio station and I was reading some slogans about the war, trying to make the army stronger, and I was talking to them. It was all of it improvising. I don't have a paper or a pen to write. So I was surprised when the director of the radio station, Nizar al-Rafi'i, he came to me and says, "Issa, follow me." I said, "Where are you going, sir?" He says, "Follow me. We're gonna go fight." I said, "Hey, I'm not a fighter. I'm not an army." They said, "Follow me. You have to go to the army that we have. We have some army around the station to protect the station." And he says, "Go and get a rifle and come." I said, "Sir, I hadn't touched a rifle in my life." He said, "You go and bring a rifle. I told you. then I just left him. There was a big confrontation between the Palestinian commandos. There were like 30,000 people in them, in Jordan from them, and there was a big confrontation between them and the army, the Jordanian army, and the prime minister at that time, Wasfitel, decided to fight them and try to kick them out of the country. So there were, fire and bombs and everywhere, and artillery and bombs, and we used to, take refuge to some places where can we be safe, like basements. We don't have basements anyway, but we have a lower flat. Mm-hmm. So we're hiding. And once I was standing up, looking from the window, and my wife told me, Issa, you have to sit down. Now they're gonna maybe hit you. Maybe something will hit you. I said, okay. I just lowered myself, and a big bullet, like 10 inches, the size of it, about 10 inches, hit the wall where I used to stand. It was exactly over here. When I stood up, I looked at the hole in the wall. It was like here on my heart exactly. So it was a very, very miserable situation at that time. People killed. About a large number of the commandos were killed, and the rest of them went to Lebanon. And their leader, Yasser Arafat, they put him in a car and made him wear ladies' clothing, so he would, hide after.
Be disguised.
He was disguised. He was afraid, and they took him to Lebanon, to Beirut.
Oh, okay.
And most of the people went to Beirut. Otherwise, they have to throw their weapons and surrender to the government. But most of them went to Beirut. It was bad. About 16, 17 days under the ground. We were always, all of us hiding. I was happy in working with our people in our radio station. But what happened once one of my friends passed away, one of the broadcasters. He was very close friend to me. And the problem is when he died, he doesn't have no money at that time. His wife was working as a teacher for the kids, and they were in bad condition financially. They were in bad condition. So when the man died, his wife was crying, and his wife was in bad shape because her salary was like 1/3 of his salary, and they were in trouble. How I looked at it, I said, if I die too, I'm gonna have my kids lost. My kids will be lost if I die. Why? We don't have Social Security in our back home. We don't have any compensation. We don't have any help, any money, any food, anything. Because the country is poor country, and they take all their money from outside as assistance. So that made me decide to leave the country. Why? Because I heard about America, United States of America. I heard about this huge country with all the liberty, with all the care about people, with the Social Security, with the good government, strong country, a country of opportunity, country of this and that. And I don't want to mention all the names, But I found out that if I come here in the United States, I will at least secure my kids. And that's the main reason I left my back home. But my home back home still lives in my heart. And I wish one day I'm going to be able to go and live there, not because I hate America, but the first love is so strong. I started working in some company called Prestolite. I used to be a material handler. What material handler? This is the lowest job in that factory. It's not a factory, it's factory. It's not like a factory, it was like a shop.
Okay, yeah.
Selling the tune-up parts of the cars. So I worked three years over there. Then I said to myself, I have to go out and do something else because the wages were not enough. So I started playing oud in parties, in weddings, in every party. I used to play oud. I got good money. So I lived decently. But I had it. 3 years I was working like a machine. The thing that made me mad, all the things I used to do, now I don't have it. I don't have a microphone. I don't have a pen in my hand. I don't have a suit, a nice suit to wear. I don't have the luxury that I used to have to live with it. So I told myself, this is what you should do. And I convinced myself that I did the right thing because I have kids to raise. I don't want to fool around with my kids, make him miserable. So I worked hard, I made enough money, and then I joined the Voice of America. Before I joined the Voice of America, I had most of my time reading English. And I joined Henry Ford College. Then for the lack of money I left it, but at least I learned more English. I was strong enough. Then when I applied for the Voice of America in Washington, D.C., they welcomed me and they said, okay, we would like you to join us. And I joined the Voice of America, VOA, for about 5 years. I used to do translation, reading news every day, production, studio production, and the translation of reports and the news, because all what we have in that radio station was in English, because all our reporters from all over the world used to send their reports in English language to the main office or to the main room. And we used to go to that room and get those reports and translate them every language to their people. So I stayed about 5 years over there, and then I came back to Michigan. TV Orient was working here, doing programs in Arabic, and they wanted me to work for them. I joined them. At the same time, I worked in the Arabic American and Chaldean Council as a social worker and translator at the same time. Yeah, that movie was called The Way to Jerusalem. It was produced in the Jordanian capital Amman. It was produced from, the actors were Jordanian and the production was Jordanian. And they were talking about a war between the commandos and the Israelis. And I was the Israeli who supposed to be in a party that day, a birthday party. So I was a general. They were playing music for me and singing for me and showing me sitting, drinking beer and stuff like that, in the food. eating food. And at the end of the party, they killed me. At the time when I was sitting and the songs were going on, the commandos were used to sneak in from this side, from that side, and hide. And in 1 second, they got up and shot me. I was killed, that movie. So it was about 15, 16 minutes. It wasn't, I mean, a short role. But I was a guest star, you know, as a broadcaster, they chose me to take this role. So they gave me the title, the guest star. It was nice. It was talking about the war between the commandos and the Israeli. I was in the Voice of America at that time, in Washington, D.C., and I like to go back to acting somehow. They told me you have to join the Screen Actors Guild, SAG. I joined it. I paid money and I joined it. And when they have the movie ready to start on the movie, they called me. They said, we need you to do some part in the movie.
Which movie?
Protocol. So I had it with the, you know, but it's not a long shot, but it was at least a beginning. Then I was asked to participate in another movie, The Man with One Red Shoe, and one I can remember Mirror Image was a British movie. It was, you know, the roles were little bit, you know, little shots, but at least I wasn't in the media for that time, you know. I enjoyed it. I had the first one printed, not printed. I wrote it in my own hand. It was Adibini, that means torture me. I was talking about the lady I love. It's something imagination. It's an imagination. It's not a real thing, you know. I was telling her Adibini means torture me because I deserve to be tortured because I loved you, and it was a love story. It was a love songs, or you can say love poetry or poems. And the other one was I printed it in Jordan. I took it to Jordan to be printed, and it was introduced by the prominent poet in our back home, Mr. Haidar Mahmoud, and it was good paper, nice, solid, and good colors and good design. And then I had it distributed here. After that, when I came from Jordan, I had about 1,000 copies.
What's the name of it?
The name?
Mm-hmm.
The name is 4 o'clock in the morning. I have chosen this title or name because I was talking about somebody who was me, talking about a voyage in the morning with the kids of the school to one of the countries, to the cities where you were to go and for a vacation. It was something, you know, very emotional. So I loved this poem, and I called the book the 4 o'clock in the morning, الساعة الرابعة صباحا in Arabic. Yeah. It was 3 sections. One talking about love, one talking about the nation, our nation, and one was talking about the nativity, how to be patriotic to your country. It was something about my back home. It was nice, you know. I distributed here, and was a big party. And the strange thing, I was supported by most of the city's business people, like AT&T, like petroleum company, like, you know, those those business people. They supported me, they covered the expenses, and I made some money. It was nice. When I was working with the Arab American and Chaldean Council, they depended on me in translation. So they gave me a book called Local Violence. And I translated that book into the Arabic language, and it was distributed all over the country. And before that, I translated the Discrimination Act of the United States. It was like 150, 170 pages. I translated that to the Arabic language, and it went back to where they sent it from Washington, D.C., and they were happy, I think, because they did not return it. As I heard that they returned this Discrimination Act in English 3 times to the Arabic American and Chaldean Council.
Oh, wow.
I did it, and it never came back because they were satisfied with it. I retired like a few years back. What I do now, I get up in the morning every day, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I read and open the internet, and I read about all the news in the world, all around the world, especially my back home, the Jordan and the Arabic countries in general. To tell you the truth, I'm so disappointed every day. I feel miserable every day because I love my people. I love everybody, not only my people. I love everybody in America and our back home. But the events now that are going on, what they call it, the spring season, which is the revolutions everywhere. When I look at those people who are killed in Libya, in Tunis, in Iraq, in Syria, I feel so disappointed, because these are we love to see the people abide by God's rules, which is love and cooperation and good feeling, to start loving each other, to start spreading the peace all over the world, to restore peace. Because when you see those countries are killing each other now, those people killing each other, you feel that they don't believe in God. And this is a major disappointment for everybody. God is there. God loves us. We have to love Him. And in order to love Him, we have to abide by His rules. We have to love each other. We have to spread peace all over the world. I don't know what people are doing nowadays. They are in lack of confidence, lack of believing in God, which is, this absurd in my opinion. That's how I describe it. I love to see peace all over the world. I went with my wife in 2005. We went to Syria. We heard about Sayyidnaya. Sayyidnaya, it was a nice story about Mary the Virgin. Everybody knows about it, this is a very popular story they always talk about. I went to visit the place of Mary. They built a church on top of the mountain, and there is a place for Mary. It was a small one, like a cave. My back was hurting so much. I went on the stairs, stair by stair. The stairs were like 150, 160 stairs from the bottom to the top of the mountain. I went, step by step until I reached the top. I was hurt. so much. I went to where Mary has a statue with lights and essence, going, good scent. I kneeled and I prayed to Mary. I said, Mother, I came here. Nobody can help me but you. I was talking to her and crying. I heard some like a voice coming from the sky. I wasn't sure what was that. It's something like somebody's whispering in my ears, you're gonna be okay. That time, one of my relatives, my first cousin, was with me. When we finished praying, we left back to the stairs, to where we came from, to the lower level. And he says, Issa, how come you are jumping over the stairs like this? You were going step by step and you're going up. Now you are running. I said, oh my God, that's right. The pain is nothing, vanished. My back was good. I was running. Then we left the scene, and that was a turning point in my life. That was something telling me, don't forget God and don't forget Mary the Virgin. You always have to pray for them. You always have to believe in God, that He is the only one who can cure you from any kind. As much as it is difficult, you will get out of it because of God. Yeah, I used to live in Amman, Jordan, close to the church, where it's the school that I was studying in. And the school is beside the church, next to the church. We were going to the church every day. We used to go and pray the morning prayer and then go to the school. We did that. We used to do that every day. So I was very close to the church in prayers. So I was raised as a real Christian man. That was, let me try to remember the date. It was, I think, 1950, almost 1950. Around 1950, I'm not sure it was 49 or 51. 1950, let's say. There is a big statue over the Rosary School for the nuns. There was a big building over there next to the church. And there was a statue of Mary on top of it, and there was a halo around her like this, which is made of iron, steel. Mary was standing in the middle of that thing. In the night, we heard the people shouting outside. It was night. Everybody was, something, turmoil in the city. I went out and asked. They said, Mary is walking down from the Rosary building to the street, and she came back and went up to where she came from, on top of the building. It was, there was a big number of photographers who took pictures. The TV was there too. And unfortunately, that wasn't shown on TV. They have the pictures and everything. They photographed her, but it wasn't shown on the TV. The next day, I went up the building and I went to where the statues used to be. She was there. The statue was back to where it was. But believe me, the statue wasn't standing in the same spot where he used to be. He's like 5-6 inches to the right. That tells me, yes, she moved and came back. Because how come a stone dug into the ground with pins of steel, how can you move it? I told myself that. I said, yeah, Mary has moved and came back because she's not standing exactly in the same spot where she was. That was amazing. Until now, people are talking about Mary, especially in Egypt. She appeared many times in Egypt. People were going out and asking her to heal them. And a number of people were healed over there. Not all of them, of course. Some of them were healed completely. Some blind people start seeing. Some paralyzed people start moving, walking. And I believe God is there. People, when they ignore God, that won't affect him. They are ignoring themselves. They are ignoring the truth, the fact that God is there, and God loves people, loves everybody, and loves everybody to be happy. The best poem that I have written about 1,000 poems, but the best and the most emotional one is about my mom. My mom was illiterate, but she was very smart. She was a believer in God. She used to say the truth no matter what. And she is very generous to people. She was very, very nice-hearted lady in my life. I haven't seen one like her in my life. So I wrote this poem about her. I say, my mom was illiterate. My mom was so and so, but she was a nice lady. She used to say the truth. She used to love people. She used to help people as much as she can. So this is a poem I consider the best that I have written in my life because I owe her. I owe her this kind of words. I'm sorry. I don't want to lose myself. But everybody should believe, should know that mom is a mother. Mother is one of the best things has existed on the face of the earth. The mother is everything. Everything else is nothing compared to her. Okay, since you asked me to read the poem about my mom, I would like to read it for the Arabic-speaking people. أمي كانت أمية، لا تقرأ، لا تكتب، لا تعرف كيف تنمق أشكال الكلمات. كانت أمي تحمل ختما تستعمله حين الحاجة في البلدية. أمي كانت أمية. إن قالت شيئا صدقت. أمي لم ترهب أحدا، ولهذا كانت تصدق حين رواية أي قضية. أمي كانت طيبة القلب أبية، تكرم إن عز الكرم، وتطعم من يقصدها، وتقول له ابشر إنك في بيتك. أمي ما كانت تخشى أحدا، ولهذا لم تكذب أبدا. أمي كانت تبكي حزنا لا تبكي خوفا، ولها قلب يتسع لكل صنوف البشرية. كانت تقنع إن شربت كأسا من شاي أو أكلت كسرة خبز. كانت تشكر خالقها وتصلي لتدوم نعمه. كانت أمي امرأة قدسية. أمي لم تعرف طمعا يوما، وتصوم ولا تقطع صوما، وتقوم بآناء الليل وتهجر نوما، وتصلي بهدوء ودموع. تتخيل معها الطفل يسوع وتجادله وتعاتبه وتطالبه أن يلهمها الصبر، والمؤمن من طلب الصبر. اعتادت أمي أن تحضنني في كل مساء، وعلى رأسي تقرأ كلمات أبانا وملاك الله، وتصلي لله لكي أكبر، وتراني رجلا أحمل كل الأعباء، وكبرت ولكن رحلت أمي. لم رحلت يا ربي أمي وأنا ما زلت أحاول تحقيق أمانيها؟ لم رحلت والطير الصادح لم يكمل أنشودته فيها؟ لم جف النبع وما زال ربيع الدنيا في مطلعه، وجثت عطشا غزلان البرية؟ هل كانت أمي ظالمة أم ملت ظلم الإنسانية؟ لك رحمة ربي في الأحضان القدسية، وحمانا الله وقانا من شر الدنيا الأبدية. This was the story about my mom. I hope the people who listen to it will understand the meaning exactly, or they can call me and tell me what does it mean. I'm ready to translate it. I don't have time now. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to open my heart and talk really from my heart profoundly. And I love the people. I always love the people. And I always love to be with them and do whatever I can do to them to be happy. Thank you very much.